I'll just leave them off. Right. Great to see you all. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me? Remarkable. It's quite fantastic technology. Anyway, my name's Royce. I can't tell whether you can hear me. Okay, so anyway, so my name's Roy Sandbach. I have the honour and privilege of chairing TAPI, and I'm not going to say very much, which is extremely difficult for somebody like me. Believe me, it's not easy not to say much when you're Roy Sandbach. However, what you do need to do this afternoon is listen to the insights from this incredible panel that we have, talking about TAPI, the work that we're doing in all aspects of finding what good looks like for technology in the context of housing, not just for older people, but for vulnerable people as well, and arguably, frankly, for the population at large in the end. What I'm going to do is give you a brief introduction. I'm going to hand over to the panel, and if interaction is not so easy under these circumstances, if you wish to put a question into the app, that's easy and we'll answer it separately. If you wish to message any of the panelists, that's easy too. And I'm going to encourage you to find us during the day, or indeed tomorrow, and ask us any questions that you might have about TAPI. And I'll come back to the reason for that later on when I wrap up. I wanted to start by saying what is TAPI, but in fact I'm just going to give you some numbers which always worry me, but which provide that perspective on why we need to do this. You all know, I think, that between now and about 2045, the percentage of people over 65 in the country will go to about 1 in 4. From 12 million to 20 million of the population, a quarter of the population will be over 65. By 2035, 3 million people will be over 85. And these are huge numbers. But let's just look at one or two of the other things that are happening in that context. Let's look at the 50 to 64-year-old group for a minute. Right? I suspect I'm way past that, by the way, obviously. But if you look at that group, about a third of that group is not working today. But in fact, about 1 in 5 of that group is sick. So just reflect on that for a minute. We've got this huge tsunami of people who are currently sick, aged between 50 and 64. We've got to be able to deal with that through whatever means we can, and technology has got to be at the heart of enabling them to live better for longer, to live healthier for longer. And we're worsening the situation in this country. Healthy living years compared to longevity is dropping in many places, and particularly in places like the one I come from in the Northeast, where men and women are both reducing in terms of their healthy living years. There's more. The costs of frailty, 5.8 billion for the health service, can't stay that way. Can't say that. We don't have enough beds either. Since 2000, we've lost 25% of our hospital beds. I don't know whether you all know that, and I make no comment on the political nature of that, but the fact of the matter is we've lost 25% of our hospital beds. And of course, 13,000 of them are currently blocked by people who shouldn't be there. Let's remember that too. And then let's turn to housing. Housing. We've got approximately 1 in 5 of houses in this country which are deemed non-standard according to the government's numbers. Not good. However, it's worse than that, because if you look at those houses, about half of them are occupied by people over 65. Surely technology can be used to make their lives better in those houses. So we've got a sort of demographic, a health, and a housing issue, and TAPI is designed to address some of those questions. Right. I think let me just move on. What we're going to do here is I'll introduce and then hand over to our partners. I'll let them introduce themselves. They've all been involved in TAPI throughout, and I'm hugely privileged to work with them. It's been a tremendous experience for me as someone who is not expert in the context of housing and care. The background is simple. There was a report, an important, almost seminal report written in 2009, which was called HAPPY, and it was to do with housing for the aging population, and it gave some guidance on what that should look like. And it has been adopted in many, many environments that relate to older people. Our thinking was quite simple, that should then now, in today's world, given what's going on in the technology context, it should be expanded to technology. So we've moved from HAPPY to TAPI. There was a panel that I chaired on Zoom, not so easy. However, everyone was extremely kind and allowed me to chair that through the virtual means. And we had a whole series of engagements with expert witnesses from health, from care, from housing and beyond, including design, by the way, which is an undervalued contributor in this context. And it's linked to a series of other commissions which have also published reports recently, including one from Sky and ADAS. The lessons were simple but important so far. First of all, we've said it, people must be at the heart of everything that we do. But the processes and the systems are complicated and they're very siloed. Let's not underestimate the siloing nature of everything that goes on in the context of care and health. One of the reasons, by the way, why, for example, my mother has been 3 weeks too long in hospital. She's coming out today. And she's been 3 weeks too long because of a disengagement, frankly, between the health system, the discharge system, and the care system. And that's just not good enough. So siloing is crucially difficult. Collaboration is a problem. Knowledge and training is patchy at best. We had OTs coming to talk to us about their understanding of technology in the context of housing and care, and it was patchy. And they recognize that, by the way. And we've got to do something about that in the context of bringing technology into action. However, what we did do was we developed 10 TAPI principles, which we think are very relevant to, and they're in the report, so go and have a look, that are very relevant to the conversations about technology and care, and I'll come back to that a bit later. Finally, there's some wonderful examples of great practice, but those are great practice examples which have not been leveraged everywhere. So scale or indeed replication, either of which are important, and it's not happening. These are the 10 TAPI principles. If I was in charge, these would be on the desk of everybody who works in health and care and housing in this country. If they were, we wouldn't need top-down government policy, we'd have a bottom-up movement. And honestly, I'm recruiting you to a bottom-up movement for change in the context of technology for housing. We're moving to the next step of TAPI now, and we're in it, which is how do you get from principles to delivery? Because innovation is all about delivery. It's not about ideas, it's not about inventing something new, it's about delivery. And what we're doing is testing the 10 TAPI principles in test beds. And we're sort of getting detailed evidence to see whether they work, because they possibly won't work. Not all of them will be important, and we want to change them. There are some system barriers, we'll find out about those. We'll co-produce the next step, which will be a framework for action. And then we'll find a way of trying to implement that action framework on a significant national basis. Heck of a job. And I want to start that movement for change among all stakeholders. By the way, you are the first. It's being made to work because it's funded by Dunhill Medical. Thanks to Sue Kay, who's over there, for having the vision to fund this work. It's being supported by the TSA and Housing. Lynn and Jeremy's on our panel here now. It's being supported in co-production terms by Co-Production Works, and Jolie and Deborah are here to talk about co-production in the context of TAPI, and it's being evaluated by Gemma Burgess at Cambridge University. An important part of what we do is evaluation. Couldn't happen without the test beds. There are 6. They're on this chart. All of them are putting time and effort into something which is beyond their day job, but which is innovation at heart. And frankly, that's visionary, because many people don't go beyond their day job in order to innovate. It's a bit risky, it's a bit on the edge, it costs. Innovation isn't easy. These people are committed to innovate, and I thank them all. I've got a steering board. It's full of experts, which is a bit daunting for me because I'm not one. However, this is it. If you want to know who they are and what they do, then I'll share these charts. The great news is they're from all aspects of the sector, including design, by the way. Finally, there's a whole lot more on the Housing Lynn website with respect to TAPI. I occasionally write a blog for poor Jeremy and Jerome to put in there on their site. If you're interested in talking to me more, I'm here for pretty much the whole of the 2 days. So thank you very much. And what I'm going to do now is hand over to Paul Sanders from VIAR, who's the sponsor for the innovation stage. He's just going to talk a little bit about what they do in the context of new technology for care. And then we'll move into the major TAPI insights that the rest of the panel will give you. So thank you for now.
Okay.
Over to you, mate. Right. That's your thingy. There's your thing.
Lovely.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, excellent. I was a bit worried. I just knocked my headset off, so it's typical just as I come up on the stage. But thank you all for joining me. It's great to see you all here. Some really familiar faces in the audience here to support me, so thanks for coming. I'm obviously from VIAR. I started with the company in 2022, which was the year that VIAR really cemented its place in the health and social care landscape. And to be honest, there couldn't have been a more exciting time for me to join the organisation. Sometimes I didn't maybe feel that, but yeah, you know, it was a great time to join. On one hand, it was an historic moment for the sector we've had, and the privilege to engage with care providers up and down the UK. We've listened to their challenges, from staff recruitment and retention, the long-time impacts of the pandemic, to the requirements of digitisation and how to make sure the process serves to enhance outcomes for all service users. On the other hand, we've been fortunate to collaborate with the country's very best technology partners, from core system providers to connected care platform suppliers and providers. And that covers everyone from the giants in the industry, which you'll see on the slide, to some of the most innovative new entrants. And it's been thrilling to see how many companies of different types are all aligning around a set of shared goals, improving outcomes, giving service users greater say in their own care, and easing the burden on frontline caregivers, and preparing caregivers for the challenges and opportunities that are yet to come. And with a dozen core systems, twice as many connected care platform providers now on board with VIAR Care, we're delighted to be at the heart of a national ecosystem that's ready to harness the full power of behavioural data for proactive, predictive and preventative care. And of course, for us, it all starts with fall detection, ensuring that help is on its way, even if someone's forgotten to wear their pendant that day. This is obviously crucial in all care settings. And that's VIAR Care's core functionality, and you can see us on booth 52. And the success we've had in that respect is thanks in no small part to one of our UK distributors in Panacea Healthcare. So far, they've managed our nationwide network of installers to make sure that every deployment of our radio frequency sensors goes smoothly, so that users can count on constant protection as well as complete privacy. But care providers naturally want more. They're not content with just being reactive. They want to go the extra mile and anticipate people's issues, including falls. And that's something that can only be done with using data. And some of the conversations we have with partners and customers are very similar. And you can feel the excitement about utilizing this new kind of behavioral data. And sometimes it's easy to forget that this is actually very simple data. Is the person in the room? Are they in bed or in a chair? And how often they go into the bathroom? And we can demonstrate some of these things over on the stand. And our partners all bring unique perspectives on how to use that data. It's about actionable insights into mobility, mental and physical health, wellness, and falls risk. And to be honest, at the moment, I think we're only really just scratching the surface. There's so much more information we can provide using our technology. And the deeper we collaborate with our partners, and the more conversations we have with our providers, caregivers, service users, and their families, the more possibilities we can unlock. And I mentioned caregivers. They're at the heart of our partnership strategy. By reducing false alerts, supporting small prioritization of care delivery, and enabling early interventions, we're reducing their workload and doing our bit to address the staffing crisis across the UK. So the ViaCare team and all our partners are united around the goal of advancing the tech agenda through data-driven insights. And I'd like to thank each and every one of them, our partners, for the support so far, and look to take advantage of the next stages of our journey. And together we're going to redefine person-centered care and unlock true personalized outcomes. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for listening. Come and see us on booth 52, full demonstration. We can show you exactly what we've got and maybe set up some more conversations for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. What we're going to do now is we're going to tell you a little bit about the co-production work that's going on in the context of TAPI 2, and Jolie Goodman is leading on that, and there'll be a conversation between her and Deborah Edwards, who's one of our champions. I mean, honestly, we couldn't do this work without having people who have the needs telling us what they think of the possibilities. Over to you, Jolie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roy. It's very good to be here. Can everybody hear me? Yes, okay, right. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to come up in a minute. So we're going to be talking about co-production works involvement in the TAPI project. I told there was a bit of a delay on the slides. We're going to be talking about people, because as Clinton said earlier, it's not, and this talk is all about, it's not just about the technology, it's about people leading tech-enabled lives. Okay, and then I'm going to be introducing you to Deborah Edwards, and then we're very pleased to be introducing the personal stories, which are the stories of co-production champions. One sitting in the audience here. Okay, so, oh, it's me. Okay, hooray! Sorry, I forgot I had to do the slides. So, this is a drawing about co-production works, and it's how we hope to work. So it was a year ago that Pete Fleischman, founder of Co-Production Works, came across an exciting funding application to support co-production in the TAPI project Part 2. For anyone who doesn't know or hasn't yet remembered the acronym, TAPI stands for Technology for Our Aging Population Panel of Innovation. For some of the later life housing tenants we've been working with, the name TAPI has caused a bit of confusion. TAPI with one P is also a popular carpet brand in Scotland. So at first, Scottish tenants thought they were going to get new carpets. And on another site, tenants thought they were going to be offered some tapas and were very disappointed when at their first tapping meeting, they just got tea and biscuits. But seriously, this is a wonderful project with a very catchy name. And here I am, a year later, after putting in our bid, talking about TAPI on the stage of ITEC. What was so attractive about TAPI was that there was an opportunity to work on a program with properly funded co-production. TAPI is such an exciting and timely project, and Roy's already done this a little bit, but I'm going to bore you with some more stats about our aging population. Very much the COVID pandemic highlighted older people's experiences of isolation, and understanding how technology can positively support later life and people living in supported housing schemes is so important to our aging population. And just a little bit of context, the Centre for Aging Better tells us that there are now 11 million people over the age of 65 in the UK. In 2033, that will rise to 13 million people. That's a 22% increase. NHS Digital highlights how some sections of the population are more likely to be digitally excluded than others. These are older people, people in lower income groups, people without a job, people in social housing, people with disabilities, and people living in rural areas. Now, many of these people are living in later life housing schemes. I find this image of a desire path a really helpful way to talk about the offer of co-production. This picture shows the difference between the path that the people make themselves, which is the diagonal, and the other one, which service designers think is the one they should take, and that's the one which is more of a rectangle or a right angle. And it's a great visual illustration of why we need co-production. Co-production is about two key outcomes: better services and stronger communities. Co-production leads to better relationships between staff and tenants, improvements in staff performance and job satisfaction, and more cost-effective decision-making. So, what have we been doing? The co-production approach we have designed is a champions model. Each of the 6 TAPI testbed sites nominates some staff and tenants to join the co-production champions group. There are 70 members of the champions group, 9 tenants and 8 staff. The champions group provides a good pool of tenants and staff who can get together and be involved in all the various aspects of TAPI. This group meets virtually every 6 weeks. To learn about co-production and hear from guest speakers about different aspects of TAPI, the group is facilitated by myself and Pete from Co-Production Works. In between the meetings, the champions are responsible for leading co-production in their local testbed site. A co-production champion said, "Getting people together raises issues about people's lives in a holistic way. The TAPI project must be led by people's lives, the results of their experiences. It's not just about the technology." In the second Co-Productions Champions group, people drew how they felt about technology. And as you can see, the drawings people made reflected their mixed feelings about technology, how it's both a blessing and a curse. I'd now like to welcome Deborah Edwards, who's co-production tenant champion from Haringey. Can you give her a round of applause? We're going to do a question and answer session together. Next slide. Actually, I'm going to come and sit over here because it feels better. So the first question, Deborah. So how have you found working co-productively in TAPI?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I read that my answers to be easier to deliver. I found it a bit exciting and challenging, as I'm aware of what it means to do work co-productively from previous life. I have really enjoyed the monthly meetings, working together with other champions because, we share issues and things along. Um, it made me very aware of the needs of elderly and disabled people around the country, and to show me that the needs are not all the same apart from our basic needs. I myself, it's one of my most important needs is the need of my independence. Anything that empower my independence, I grab with both hands. I'm happy to be part of something where I work with equality. I do with, and I'm not done to. I am glad that the word co-production is not just about work, but it's used with integrity.
So what have been the challenges?
Okay. The challenge has been the timing. Some areas you'll find where things goes quicker and than our London, our base. Dealing with residents, where I live is a lot of the residents are a lot more older than me, and it's getting them to trust technology. So even at the moment, there is a tenant there that technology would be so good for her, but because of the fear of it, she's not taking part with it. And the frustration of a basic thing or Wi-Fi, because you'll find in a lot of residential homes and different places like that, there's no Wi-Fi because somebody thought we wouldn't like to use technology.
And what have the positives been, Deborah?
Okay, the positive is working with other service users, carers, senior staff, management on one level. Alice, another champion, said, I find that many people see older people as a burden to society, and some of us may well be. However, most of us are trying to make things better for the generations to come, as did the generation before us. We are today's trial and errors for tomorrow's age. We all get older every day. The older we get, the more challenging living becomes. Any help in any way is welcome. I am sure that co-production is one huge step forward. That's Alice's words. So myself I am pleased to be part of this forward-looking group. I have to say, I am taking part in something which is going to affect my life rather than being done to me. Excited about the personal stories that they are doing about us.
What would your advice be for an organisation who wants to start working co-productively?
The strongest piece of advice I give to anybody who wants to work co-productionally, please do not use the term. Just don't use the term and you don't mean co-production. If you're going to be working co-productionally, mean it is the same on all levels, that the service users will have a voice as well as the providers. And to ensure that it's empowering for everybody involved, because empowerment is the tool to a better life.
Change the slides. Okay. It's a bit about
as I said before,
personal stories.
We got a personal story, so I'm happy to launch that today of our personal stories. And we also got a workshop this afternoon at 4 p.m. upstairs.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jolie. Thank you, Deborah. By the way, personal insights, absolutely everything. It's really important that people listen to the words that you use about the way in which individuals respond, in my opinion. I'm going to hand over now to Lynn Douglas from Beeld. Beeld has been a tremendous supporter, Lynn specifically, and indeed Gary. Is Gary sorry, Gary. I should have my glasses on, really. Been tremendous supporters of TAPI, and they're part of the testbed activity. Over to you, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really strange speaking on the innovation stage because you literally can't hear whether you can all hear me. It's very, very strange with little bug lights on your ears everywhere. So I'm Lynn Douglas and I'm Chief Exec of Bailed Housing and Care. And I'm going to start this presentation by saying I've spent most of my working life working in the NHS. I was a Director of Allied Health for more than 15 years and trying to keep people out of hospital with my staff across primary care, secondary care, social care, and also trying to get them out of hospital as quickly as possible. And in 2019, I took the opportunity to jump into a different sector and I became the Chief Exec of Bailed Housing and Care. And what resonated most strongly with me was the mission of the organisation was really exactly the same as I had tried to be doing for the previous 20 odd years that I've been working in the NHS. And that was to enable people to live their life independently in their own home. So who are we? So Bailed Housing and Care has been around for 50 years. Last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. And I just want to share with you our journey so far in coming together to do the TAPI project and give you some insights into our learning so far. But what I will say is it has been an absolutely wonderful experience and we are so glad to have jumped into this disruptive space. So Bailed is a landlord of significance in Scotland. We're a third sector organisation and we're also a charity. We operate in 23 out of the 31 health and social care partnerships and we work all over Scotland. So we're in rural areas as well as in urban areas. And as I said before, our mission is very much to drive that quality of life and improved outcomes for the people that we serve across our tenancies. So why is TAPI important to us? Well, I think probably the most important aspect for me and for the team, and many of my team are here today, so you'll get to meet them later on, and they're the people that are doing all this practical work on a day-to-day basis. But we wanted to demonstrate how housing can play a significant role in helping to join the dots between health, social care and housing. As many others have said, the tsunami of older people is already upon us. But most older people live their lives independently and they live their lives in their own home. They're not in a secondary care institution, they're not in hospital, they're actually in their own home. And that really mattered to me when we got the opportunity to bid for TAPI. Because it's our responsibility to make sure that those individuals, when they come into Bailed, that they are able to articulate what is their best life and what are the problems that we need to help them solve that's going to enable them to live independently for a long period of time. So many others have talked about the statistics, but in Scotland, for the first time in a publication that was just published last year, the number of healthy living years that people are now experiencing is actually dropping for the first time in over 2 decades. And that is a really big concern in terms of demand on the already stretched services. So we see our contribution in TAPI as being able to look and work with the outcomes in relation to the TAPI principles and test which one of those or all of them that are going to work best for our population. So we have 3 challenges that we're working on within TAPI. One is the fact that digital literacy and inclusion for older people, as we've heard, is quite a challenge. And everything is moving from a policy perspective towards that digital front door, access to GP, access to services. But we know that in the over 65s, they are the biggest single population that don't access the internet for all the reasons that we have heard. And Jolie's already outlined, in addition to that, if you live alone, if you live in social housing, if you have a disability, then you're even more likely not to interface with digital connected services. We're also very interested in prevention, and we want to work with others and with our tenants to see what can we do in the space of a housing association to help people live their best life. What is it that they need and how can technology help them? And finally, we're very excited by our third challenge. Because we offer housing and care, we're very interested to see how technology and technology-enabled living can help have an impact on predictive analytics and look at when can we detect if someone is beginning to lose their function or be unwell, and how can we proactively interject at that moment and actually bring a human element to what is going on for that individual. So our third challenge is around how we use some of the most advanced technology in helping to drive the more prevention agenda and keep people living in their own home. So our services, strategically this is very important. We're just about to launch, next week we're just about to launch our new strategy. And our new strategy is very outcome driven. We have an outcome on innovation, we have an outcome on personalisation, and we have an outcome on working in partnership. And you'll see from this slide, we have lots of things that we offer our tenants. So we're not just a housing association that provides an independent living and tenancy, we're also providing meals and we're providing care, and we also have BR24, which is our 24-hour-a-day, 7 days a week alarm receiving centre, and we've been doing some really exciting things within BR24 to drive the proactive agenda. So it's important for us strategically, but most importantly, it's for the offer that we can give to the older people that come into our space. Over COVID, we were asked by Scottish Government and ITEC Scotland if we would be able to participate in a new trial and a test of change to see whether proactive telecare could help improve outcomes for individuals and help them stay living independently in their own home. Now, we've done 2 Inspire projects, and this is the results from our second project that we did just last year. And the team worked with a group of individuals who were discharged from hospital, and they gave them the opportunity to have a proactive telecare offer. So the team have been trained on good conversations, and they're very much focused on the outcome that the individual is looking for. So they spend time getting to know the individual and talking to them using the proactive telecare. And these are the astonishing results that we were quite surprised at, but this is the results that we found for the cohort of people that actually took the proactive telecare. The results speak for themselves, and you can see the significant reduction in demand for ambulance services, the demand in terms of key holders having to go to those individuals, and this was compared to a cohort of people who didn't take the proactive telecare offer, and we're really very excited about this. And we did this in partnership with ITEC Scotland and University of the West of Scotland, and we will be publishing our results in the very near future. So co-production, I'm not going to say a huge amount because already Jolie has spent a long time talking about this, but we very much believe that this is about people and it's about solving the problems that they have. And our co-production tenants who have been participating with us in the TAPI project are Alice and Peter, who are 86 and 84 years of age respectively, and they have just blown our socks off in terms of the things that they've wanted, the technology that they've tested, and they have really helped us in our journey towards procuring technology that enables them to live the life that they want to live. And Anthropos is one of our key partners that we've just agreed, VIAR, as we've heard, and also Aquatech. And they're all partners that our core production leads have engaged with. And this is a Zoom call that our core production tenants had with some of the suppliers so that they could choose the technology that they felt best fitted their needs. And one of the things that I've been very interested in, this is probably a very chief exec thing to say, but obviously for us, we want to be able to test the TAPI principles, but most importantly, we want it to make a difference to the people that we serve and to the tenants that we serve. We have over 4,000 tenants, and we're doing a TAPI project in 2 developments to test the principles and to actually look at the challenges that we have put into the TAPI bid and see what the outcomes are. But one of the things that's really important to us is about interoperability and sustainability, and it's a soft measure, and it's something that we are looking to try and capture in the learning of TAPI, because obviously there are, as you can see, there are a plethora of suppliers that all provide their own piece of equipment that can help our tenants live their best life. We've gone into partnership with our technology partners, and we've been asking them to think about joining the dots themselves and to work together so that the offer we're giving our tenants is not clunky and 3 separate things, but much more holistic. And that's something that we've been looking to do, and we have done with the 3 main suppliers that we have in our TAPI project. because it's really important that this is affordable when we actually scale it up and spread it across the whole of our estate. So what is our vision for the future? Well, I mentioned earlier that our strategy is an outcome-based strategy. It's very much about the offer of independent living and technology-enabled care, and that is what people will expect when they come and take up a tenancy with Bales in the future. But really importantly for us, we're working very hard so that we can empower the people that we serve so they can live independently through the TAPI journey. Most importantly, we have to understand the digital literacy and inclusion element so that we can spread that so that we have the best possible way of engaging with all of our tenants, and most importantly, our workforce, because many of our workforce are over the age of 45 and they are not particularly digitally literate themselves. And that is a big work stream that we are working in partnership with TSA, and we're looking at that in relation to the TAPI outcomes. And I think probably for me, having spent most of my working life on the other side of the fence within health, Scotland's not a very big place. You know, it's only got 5 million people, 5 million population. We all know each other. And, well, not quite, but we all know the key players in terms of strategically and in terms of some of the chief execs and chief operating officers across our integrated systems. So my plea for TAPI, and I'm being very noisy about this in my own space, is let's look at how we shift the paradigm and think about how housing can have a significant contribution to the prevention, personalisation and proactive aspect of what we can do for our general population. And there is going to be enough work for all of us, but if housing had a different model and a different way of thinking about what they did in the context of the tenants, particularly in tenants like mine who are over the age of 65 predominantly, then it means that the statutory services can be doing what they do best. But there are lots of things that we can do, our alarm receiving centre, our proactive offer, and that is something that we've been able to take forward in Scotland in our own housing association. And we're really very, very excited about being part of the TAPI journey, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more from us over the coming 12 months. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. There's there's really rich insight that is coming out of Beeld and their work in Scotland. One of the things that I find particularly important in the context of TAPI is to have a dialogue which is broader than just technology and care. And we've been very fortunate to have Jirko Hogeworth from IKEA as part of our TAPI panel. Jirko runs the Safer Living at Home community and indeed organisation at IKEA. And IKEA is on that boundary. And if we don't have dialogue with that boundary, and indeed with others outside of our sector, then we won't provide the innovation which comes from boundary spanning. So Jirko's got a short video that I'd like to share with you. Can you put the video up? There is a video.
Our vision is to create a better everyday life for the many people. This includes those who face different kinds of functional needs, children, the elderly, and everyone in between. That is also why we created Omtengsam, a product collection that makes life more comfortable, functional, and safe, while contributing with an attractive design. The collection was born out of a very personal experience, where the IKEA creative leader Britt Monty had suffered a stroke. The homemade products available on the market did not live up to her needs, and she saw a gap, not only in the existing IKEA range, but in the home furnishing market overall. Together with different specialists in the field, she made Omtengsam come to life. The outcome? A collection that makes everyday life easier for everyone and everybody. The journey towards a more inclusive society continues, where IKEA want to ensure that people everywhere have access to beautiful, functional, safe, high-quality products that everyone can afford.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jirko Hogewerf, and I work for IKEA of Sweden. IKEA of Sweden is the unit within IKEA that develops all products that meet customers in IKEA stores globally. I'm also one of the TAPI2 steering board members, and that's the reason for me here to join you virtually. I would have loved to be there in person with you today, but unfortunately that was logistically not possible. But if there's one good thing that we learned out of the whole COVID pandemic, it is that there are many more virtual ways to interact than we thought before. At IKEA, I lead the Safer Life at Home initiative. This initiative focuses on two consumer groups that are especially more vulnerable for injuries at home, children and elderly. At this conference, of course, I focus on the elderly. The first point that I would like to make is that technology doesn't always have to be complex or digital. I mean, the video that we showed before shows the work done by a product development team led by my former colleague Britt Monti, which resulted in the Omtanksam collection launched a few years ago. And with especially digital technology evolving rapidly today, many more things are possible, but let's not forget that it's also physical technology that continues to develop, which can contribute to creating a better everyday life for the many people. The second point I would like to make is that there should be a focus on people as a starting point in any product development. And it is very helpful to involve these people as early as possible in the product development process and do that in a collaborative way. I know in the UK you call this process co-production. At IKEA, we are curious about life at home and regularly involve people in the development of our products. And that is why I also accepted this invitation to join the TAPI steering group, as I'm curious to learn how the TAPI principles are applied in developing solutions involving technology with elderly in the need of care. It is a great opportunity to share our experience and continue to learn as well. The last point I would like to make is a call for action, for collaboration or co-production as you want, in the area of technology-enabled care. Please reach out to IKEA and other companies who might be able to provide the solutions for the many people. Only when we are aware of the opportunities, we can start exploring potential solutions for their needs. And let's be creative in finding solutions. It is not only about the products themselves, but also on business models, on how to bring these solutions to these products. Thank you for your attention and looking forward to collaborating with you.
You know, having a 10-minute conversation with somebody like Jirko, who works in a major corporate on the boundaries of the sector within which we operate, is a 10 minutes conversation well worth having, in my opinion. And he's available. He's part of TAPI, and he's part of us. So let's use that connection. Finally, I'm going to hand over now to Jeremy Porteous, who basically has been one of the major leaders of getting TAPI off the ground. He was involved with Happy and is now involved with TAPI. Over to you, Jeremy, to finish off for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy, and just bear with me for a minute. There's an announcement. I don't know if you can hear it, but I certainly can. Isn't Roy a great recruiting sergeant? In fact, you're more a general than a sergeant, and we're his able lieutenants. And what he's really about is, and how we've tried to create a real important, strong, vibrant TAPI family. And just touching on some of the points made earlier around the demography, a point I always remember is that by 2050, 50% of the population will be over 50. So we've got a real challenge both to think about our own ageing, but also how to think about that from a point of inclusion as opposed to segregation. I think a really important point that Rich Amos made this morning. Paul Burstow also talked about it in terms of that we're not age ready. And I worked in government for many years, and Lord Filkin wrote a report saying that we were woefully underprepared for ageing. I wonder whether we're wantingly underprepared for ageing because we're not really sure what it means, and we put it in the too difficult box. And that's why TAPI and its predecessor Happy are really important elements for taking this forward. And it's a real live programme, as you've heard this afternoon already. For those of you who don't know about the Housing Learning Improvement Network, we're a very small but a crown jewel, a jewel in the crown, I would say, in terms of promoting and championing good quality housing and technology for all, although our particular focus has been around housing for older people and for people with long-term conditions or disabled adults. And we operate across England, Scotland and Wales in particular. And it's great to see many of you who are Housing Lynn members here. Roy touched on some of the points about Happy, and they came out really to investigate 15 years ago what are the critical factors that would enable us to think about the designs of our homes and communities in a better way for an age-friendly society. It's taken 15 years really for those principles in Happy to be embedded. We've taken 15 months to get to here, and we're still going at a real great pace. And I loved the fact that Lynn talked about us being a disruptor, because we are a disruptor, and we want to make sure that you all can help us to disrupt in your own localities as well. But within Happy, one of the 10 principles of that was about how can we be care ready. And if there's anything I would love you to take away, in addition to becoming fully signed up members to the TAPI, are these 3 overarching sort of points. One, drawing on what Jerko just said around the consumer and the retail offer, is about what's the greener deal. This is not just about the health and social care offer, this is also about how we can live more sustainably in the homes that we live in, the communities that we live in. And we need to think about this in relation not just to the service provision, but also the types of qualitative aspects we want in the design of both our new homes, but our existing homes and communities. And we heard a little about IKEA in terms of its product design, but it's also working with major Swedish house builders to test this out in terms of accessible, inclusive housing design, way ahead of some of our thinking here in England. So there's a lot of shared learning to take forward from that. And that includes meeting the net zero agenda, modern methods of construction, and addressing things like energy efficiency and fuel poverty, with all big issues in many of our local communities. So we need to think about that and be reminded that this integrative care is also about integration with housing and the built environment. The second point is about how can we all be care ready to tackle some of that disadvantage and discrimination and to be more mature about being age inclusive. And we need to think about how we design our homes to be both accessible in the future, but also how do we retrofit and adapt them now? How do we integrate things like community equipment services, aids and adaptations through DFGs, but also the future adaptability of an ageing society based on the numbers that we heard so eloquently from Roy and Jolie earlier. And lastly, really about how can TAPI help inform creating a much healthier home, not one that is about ill health, but actually promotes good health and good care services, ensuring that we have the right environment to look at issues both in relation to prevention, around preventing hospital admissions or supporting speedier discharge back into home. And again, Rich made some really important points about the independence of that, and rather than just thinking solely as about independent living, because we all want to live in a place that is secure, safe, and meets our future well-being. So TAPI fits in beautifully to this, and Roy highlighted the 10 principles which are underpinning this to take that forward. Why is it important? Because it does make a significant difference. When we undertook the first inquiry, we worked with a major house builder and developer called Igloo. Igloo Regeneration are working across many communities, in particular in England and Wales, to look at large-scale mainstream housing supply. What they would like to do is build this in right from the outset, both in the construction and development, but also in the service offer, so that there is that digital maturity that Lynn and Deborah touched on. So again, please do look at the report to see the examples of Igloo. I think in particular the work, Roy would love this, in Sunderland. And lastly, just to echo what Deborah and Jolie has said, this would not be made possible without the personal stories. The personal stories, both in relation the impact, the difference it's making to people living in all forms of housing. This is not just about specialist housing, extra care or supported living. The majority of people who are aging are living in ordinary mainstream housing, both in general needs housing in the social housing sector, but also in owner-occupiers, and we know there's a big market there. So the final comments here about I'd like technology that gave me more control and independence. That's why I'm involved with TAPI, and technology is keeping me in touch with family. A really big issue about that connectedness, both the digital connectedness, but also really important for everybody, the social connectedness as well, whether it's family, friends, or being in touch with formal or informal carers. And just to reiterate, these are the points where you can get copies of reports, the personal storings, and also useful resources that relate to both technology for an ageing population in terms of the project, but other materials that we capture and publish on a regular basis. So, Roy, I hope that's given justice to the time, and here's over to you for summing up.
Right, I'm gonna, thanks Jeremy. Right, I'm gonna let you all go now. I hope that we've recruited you to a movement for change and a movement for care, and that we've opened your eyes to some opportunities. If we have, come and talk to us about them. Indeed, come and talk to me, and I'll hopefully signpost you to others who will be much more knowledgeable than me. Thank you so much for your attention, and have a great couple of days. I know I will. Thank you.